Top 10 Fabulous Present, 10 Most Disastrous Nuclear Incidents. If you are new to this channel, hit the subscribe button and T10 Most Disastrous Nuclear Incidents, turn on the notification bell for more top 10 interesting facts in the world. Since World War II, extraordinary nuclear revelations have been made with regards to sustainable power source. From atomic power plants to plane-carrying warships that solitarily need to refuel at regular intervals, atomic vitality was once broadly accepted to be the eventual fate of fueling the world. But nothing is impeccable, and many are uninformed that a type of science that should make the world a superior spot has been a nightmare for a few. This article covers 10 most disastrous nuclear incidents ever occurred. 10. Goldsboro B-52 incident. On January 24, 1961, a B-52 plane conveying two 4-megaton, Mk-39 nuclear bombs was requested to refuel over the Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. The B-52 had rendezvoused with the flying tanker over Goldsboro, North Carolina, only upper east of the base. The team of the tanker saw that the B-52 was spilling fuel from its conservative, and the aircraft was requested to come back to base. On way to deal with the runway, an extreme hole in the fuel tank caused genuine mechanical disappointment, rendering the plane's controls inoperable at 3,000 meters (10,000 feet). The plane broke separated and sent the two bombs flying into the encompassing zone. 3 of the plane's team passed on because of the accident. The aviation-based armed forces promptly conveyed hunt gatherings to locate the missing bombs. Notwithstanding the way that these bombs must be equipped by the pilot in the flying machine before they were discharged, a great many lives would have been lost in merely seconds. 9. The Titan II missile fire. The Titan II rocket fire occurred close to the town of Damascus, Arkansas, on September 18, 1980. It came about because OITF, a repair crew, dropping a 4-kilogram attachment from the rocket stage and puncturing the lower fuel tank of the missile. Airman David Powell defied a specialized request given by the U.S. Air Force to utilize a torque wrench rather than the recently utilized fastener when completing a fix. Once the pilots watched the fuel vapor spilling into the storehouse, all storehouse group individuals cleared to the surface. Dave Livingston and Jeffrey Kennedy, 2 master repair individuals, found that the oxidizer was rapidly losing pressure, which caused the storehouse to detonate, sending the warhead of the rocket flying into the air. After multi-days pursuit, the 12-kiloton bomb was found in a discard a few hundred yards from the site and gathered by the U.S. military. The rocket itself was the biggest atomic weapon in the U.S. arms stockpile and would have brought about an impact multiple times bigger than that in Hiroshima. The administration would later report that the occasion had happened because of human blunder. 8. Palomares hydrogen bomb incident. On January 17, 1966, 12 B-52 planes were conveying nuclear bombs to Allied nations in Europe as a feature of a military exercise known as Operation Chrome Dome. The object was to get ready for a first strike open door against the Soviets during the Cold War. One of the planes crashed into a KC-135 tanker that was attempting to refuel, noticeable all around over the southern shoreline of Spain. The mishap doused the 2 planes in fuel, which touched off and caused a mid-air blast. The destruction from the 2 planes fell on Palomares, an oceanside cultivating town in southern Spain. The nearby populace didn't know that the destruction was spreading radioactive plutonium over the territory, sullying the land and water supplies. 3 of the bombs were quickly recouped. The 4th was not found until a quarter of a year later on April 7, 1966. This was the first occasion when the U.S. military had appeared open an atomic weapon. Also, various hints of radiation and malignant growths were found in different towns in that area. 7. Texas City disaster. On April 16, 1947, a French freight vessel named the Grand Camp was conveying a heap of ammonium nitrate, which is generally utilized in compost and in explosives for nuclear weapons. A lit cigarette left by one of the dock laborers had started a discharge on the stacking dock. It spread rapidly into one of the Grand Camp's freight holds and touched off the ammonium nitrate. The ship's chief had requested her lid shut to contain the flame, however the ascent in temperature just made better conditions for the unpredictable compound to detonate. The High Flyer, a close-by vessel which was conveying sulfur, was additionally harmed and detonated multi-day later because of flames from the Grand Camp's underlying explosion. More than 500 individuals were executed in this incident. As an outcome, new well-being measures were set up to guarantee that ammonium nitrate is transported securely. Docks presently have a focal reaction framework to respond rapidly to dockside crises, and dispatching organizations are currently required to utilize sealed containers and store the synthetics from different risky materials. 6. Tokaimura nuclear accident. The Japan Nuclear Fuel Conversion Company set up a preparing plant close to Tokaimura to deliver advanced uranium for the plant's atomic reactor. 3 specialists were appointed to set up the fuel and fill the precipitation tank around the reactor. The plant had not delivered this kind of fuel in 3 years, and the professionals had definitely no capabilities to chip away at this task. This absence of learning and experience prompted one of Japan's most exceedingly awful modern mishaps. The experts were accidentally packing the precipitation tank, which had a most extreme limit of 2.4 kilograms. Leading to the point of minimum amount, the tank was loaded up with 16 kilograms of uranium at that time. The materials started to have a negative response, creating a concise blue glimmer that quickly gave each of the 3 professionals a conceivably deadly portion of radiation. 2 of the professionals dependable were murdered from radiation consumes. While the Japanese specialists worked steadily to tidy up the region, regular people there were emptied for 2 days before it was all right for them to return. 5. The Fukushima Daiichi disaster. On March 11, 2011, a seismic tremor struck the Bank of Japan. The structural development from the underlying shake set off a wave that set out straightforwardly toward the Fukushima Daiichi atomic facility. The enormous wave, which was going at a few hundred miles 60 minutes, had made extraordinary harm the plant's cooling and venting frameworks, which are basic to controlling the temperature in every reactor. Although every one of the 3 of the reactors that were working were effectively closed down, the loss of intensity made cooling frameworks fail in every one of them inside the initial couple of days of the catastrophe. Rising remaining warmth inside every reactor's center caused the fuel bars in reactors to overheat and emit large amount of radiation. After a month of evaluating the harm to the nearby population, the Japanese government announced a 20-kilometer limited zone on April 19, 2011. The zone was evacuated. The legislature requested every one of the 6 reactors to be decommissioned, and they were totally closed down 1 year later. 4. Wind-scale fire. Europe's most horrendous atomic debacle happened on October 10, 1957, in Cumbria, United Kingdom. The Wind Scale Office utilized an arrangement of atomic reactors that were controlled with graphite. Every reactor was alluded to as a pile. On October 8, 1957, engineers at the plant saw that one of the heaps was chilling off and couldn't attain working temperature. They utilized Wigner cycle, which reused energy from the reactor to cool and warmth the pile. After 2 days, engineers saw that the reactor temperature was again mistaken and they chose to warm the reactor. They didn't realize that there was a flame in the pile. No. 1 reactor. The fire consumed for an additional 3 days. Regular strategies like water couldn't be utilized as water oxidizes with radioactive materials and could cause more damage. Finally, engineers managed to shut a hatch at the top of the pile. No. 1 smokestack which effectively ceased fire. 3. Kaishtim nuclear accident. Kaishtim is positioned as the 3rd biggest atomic catastrophe ever happened, which occurred in the town of Mayak in the Ural Mountains. The Mayak plant was utilized to fabricate 6 materials fundamental for the improvement of weapons-grade plutonium. At the time, the Soviets had not made any of their specialists mindful of the genuine plausibility of radiation harming from radioactive materials. Adjacent inhabitants didn't know about the tainting until a neighborhood man experienced genuine radiation burns. Soviet numbness proceeded for quite a long time following the underlying pollution, and Russian directing bodies neglected to support the plant or ensure the regular citizen populace. On September 29, 1957, the cooling issue brought about a monstrous blast in one of the radioactive waste tanks. The blast spread radioactive material over a territory with a population of just about 300,000 people. Because of political numbness and human blunder, Mayak and the encompassing region is viewed as the most tainted spot on Earth. 2. 3 Mile Island. On March 28, 1979, a standout amongst the most startling atomic fiascos in U.S. history occurred at the 3 Mile Island Atomic Office in Pennsylvania. Laborers at the plant didn't see that a mechanical disappointment in the cooling framework was causing a monstrous increment in the center temperature of the reactor. Unfortunately, this office did not have cautioning frameworks or sensors. Reactor specialists had closed off the crisis inflow supply, consequently giving no coolant to the reactor. It overheated, and half of its uranium center dissolved. Although there was a little arrival of radiation, it was not destructive to the nearby inhabitants as it was identical to half the dose you get from an X-beam. The danger presented by this plant to more than 2 million individuals filled the dissents of anti-nuclear vitality activists. On April 1, 1979, President Jimmy Carter investigated the plant to guarantee that endeavors were being made to anticipate a comparable accident. 40 years after the fact, 3 Mile Island has worked moving forward without any more occurrence. 1. Chernobyl nuclear disaster. The most noticeably awful atomic catastrophe to influence the whole planet occurred on April 26, 1986 in the Soviet Union. The Soviet government had given a detailed information to the laborers to pursue to securely execute the safety test of reactors. However, one of the labor chose to ignore the conventions and inappropriately sequenced the reactor core. The extreme warmth from the center caused a huge steam blast, discharging deadly measures of radioactive material into the climate of Asia and Europe. Fire groups struggled the blazes and gathered crude radioactive materials from around the site to avoid any further contamination. However, the firemen who worked in that area died of extreme radiation harm. The Russian government sent in more than 500,000 salvage laborers to react to the crisis. Although the Soviet government had the reactors fixed within few months, the region was esteemed to be unacceptable for the following 50,000 years. Even today, it is hard to decide the degree of the harm brought about by the Chernobyl emergency. But victims keep on being influenced by higher than ordinary rates of thyroid disease and deformities. Thanks for watching. Please like and share this video.